Death toll from the earthquake now stands at 91. Prime Minister assures communities help is on the way. And Nambawan Supa announces a profit for its contributors.
This is the National EMTV News with Mary Bertulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Thursday's news. As the death toll from last Monday's 7.5 magnitude earthquake in Papua New Guinea rose to 91 overnight, rescue efforts are slowly picking up pace in two of the country's worst affected provinces. Hampered by bad weather, the slow release of funding and resources, assessment teams in the provinces only began flying into these stricken areas 4 days after the quake. Scott Wyder with this update.
In Mount Hagen this morning, a group of Papua New Guinea Defence Force soldiers getting ready to travel by road into Tari.
Our primary task up there in Moro and Hela provinces would be basically providing security of those people, lead agencies in supplies.
The contingent includes 10 medical personnel who will beef up the small team of 3 doctors in Hela province. It has been a difficult 9 days since the earthquake struck the petroleum-rich provinces of Hela and Southern Highlands. But the statistics of the human cost have been difficult to gather. Hampered by bad weather and the slow release of funding and resources, assessment teams only began flying into the quake-affected areas 4 days after the 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck last Monday.
It's been hectic, 7 or 8 days for us, and we're getting Guinea back on, flying back on Friday this week. We got banks open since Monday. We got the roads getting cleared now, road between here and Mende.
Without a helicopter dedicated to disaster operations in Hela, the medical team is using what it can. Yesterday, another medical evacuation on an oil search chopper. Those hurt in the quake were airlifted to Tari Hospital.
People in die. 6 blood accident.
When we were hit here on Monday, there was not much injuries reported here. But we haven't gone out. There's so many places to cover here. But because of limitations of logistics and stuff, we are still stuck here.
The death toll continues to rise in Hela and the Southern Highlands. 11 dead in Timu village, another 12 at Huya village, close to the epicenter. In the Southern Highlands, the number of dead stands at 45. Total in both provinces, 91 so far. Scott Wyde, National EMTV News, Tari.
Communication has been a problem for families and relatives of those affected by last week's earthquake. Tony Rande, a civil engineering student studying at the University of Technology in Leh, said communication has been difficult for the 24-year-old whose family is in one of the villages hit by the quake. Their family home was destroyed by the earthquake, leaving them homeless.
The updates on mainstream and social media regarding the areas affected by the 7.5 magnitude earthquake in the Highlands region are the only source of information these students rely on. These students study at the PNG University of Technology. They come from the 3 provinces in the Highlands region affected by the disaster. 24-year-old Tony Rande is from Kiburu village, Lower Mandi in Southern Highlands, which is also affected by the earthquake. His parents and siblings are currently there and communication is difficult.
We don't have proper communication, only a few times, maybe 1 or 2 times in a week because of the power, and also the digital network is also down in the province. That includes the banking system and the other things. So still we are having a problem with communication, and I know the other students as well in the province, from same province, they are facing the same problem with the communication. So right now, I really don't know the current status of my family, where they are and what they are doing currently because of the downfall in the communication.
This is Tony Rande's family. The 24-year-old's father, Temokang Rande, is a pastor and lives with his family here at Kiburu village. The earthquake caused damages to their home, causing cracks on their flooring. It was the same outside their home. The continuous earthquakes and aftershocks affected the family's health.
Those, especially the young and the old, they are feeling sick because of the continuous earthquake.
The students continue to work closely and maintain their lead in appealing to the public in lay to donate in kind.
As John F. Kennedy has said, ask not what your government can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. So as students, we're not seeing this as something that we cannot be concerned about. But as elites and as leaders for tomorrow, we have this drive to push forward and to make these affected provinces come back to its original state, what it has been.
Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Lay.
The people of Israel have donated 40 diesel generators to assist in the distribution of temporary power to affected areas. The Israeli government's Pacific Islands advisor, Yaron Sultan Dadon, said the donations are not only to restore some normalcy to affected areas, but to also give hope to the people of Hela and Southern Highlands.
While PNG Power has advised they are working around the clock to restore power in the affected districts of Hela and Southern Highlands, the Israel government has given 40 diesel generators to bring electricity into affected areas.
Yesterday, on a tour with the PM to see the damage, and we said that this is nothing to build a bridge or to clear a road. It's nothing. The work of the Prime Minister with Bill and David here, it's much more significant. It's to build the hopes and the spirit of the people from the beginning. This is much more significant than just bringing generators or doing work from outside.
The Israeli government says they will continue to assist other areas if needed. Meanwhile, controller of the Emergency Disaster Restoration Team, Dr. Bill Hamblin, thanked the Israeli government for its support.
40 of the generators going to the Highlands, as I said today. We're outside there where the C-130 is loading at the moment. We'll be on the next load with this lot. It'll go directly to oil search and it'll be out in the field this afternoon.
Meanwhile, fuel for generators, if needed, will be provided by Oil Search.
Search has supplies of fuel up there. If they need any assistance with that, they'll be in contact with us.
The generators are amongst various relief supplies donated both locally and international to assist disaster victims. They are being flown out by the Royal Australian Air Force C-130J Hercules to the Moro camp in Southern Highlands every day. Adelaide Xerox Curry, National MTV News.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force and the New Zealand Army have signed the Status of Forces Agreement, an agreement that allows security operations to be jointly conducted by a host nation and a bilateral partner. New Zealand Defence Minister Ron Mark says it stands ready to assist PNG in both transferring relief supplies to affected communities in the Highlands and security preparations for Apec in November. Minister Mark says a plane with medical supplies is on its way to PNG from New Zealand.
On behalf of New Zealand and I'm confident in saying on behalf of the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand has extended its condolences both to the Prime Minister, whom I met with today, and Minister of Defence, Minister of Police, Minister for Planning, Minister for Apec. Our deepest condolences for the loss of life that has been suffered under these earthquakes. And New Zealand has a strong affinity and very high degree of empathy towards Papua New Guinea right now because we've gone through all of this. We had the Christchurch earthquakes. My children, my grandchildren were caught up in that because they live in Christchurch, and then we had the Kaikoura earthquakes, and we've had earthquakes around Seddon, and they go on and on. But that was about 4 years ago, and we're still suffering the aftershocks. We know how that affects people personally, not just in terms of their property that they lose, not just in terms of their loss of access affects the government services, their loss of infrastructure, the inability to move around, even drive a vehicle. We know it also affects their health. If they weren't directly injured, it does not mean to say they haven't been injured. We are suffering a lot of mental health issues back in Canterbury in particular, the ongoing consequences of the earthquake, and we do not underestimate the challenges ahead of your government. I think we have reiterated time and time again, if there are areas where we can assist, we just ask us and we'll be there.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has assured communities affected by the earthquakes that help is on the way. He gave this assurance when leading a high-level delegation on a tour of affected areas yesterday.
The Prime Minister toured the earthquake-affected areas on Wednesday, together with heads of companies involved in the PNG LNG project. In Moro, which has become the distribution centre for relief supplies into the Southern Highlands and the Hela provinces, the Prime Minister was given an insight into how relief supplies into communities were being coordinated. Mr. O'Neill reiterated that whilst relief supplies were being distributed, the immediate focus for government would remain the restoration of essential services.
Plan the road and me pass land, but you try to clear him past them. So machine become so I'm making most movement blue me easily click. Sambla Alvin become the road and machine must hope him road na come past them.
The oil search base in Moro has become the hub for distribution of supplies into affected areas, and the Prime Minister thanked the resource companies for taking the lead in these efforts.
The long-term structure is through the Restoration Authority, but today we must focus on the immediate relief efforts, but food and water and security and blankets, tents, and these are the efforts that we also focus on.
We're really impressed by the structure and the approach that you've applied here. We're also very impressed that we can. You've been out right across the province and seen some of the challenges and the devastation and the human trauma that is out there.
With the death toll rising, the Prime Minister called on the people to remain vigilant, especially with ongoing aftershocks.
So please, people, every nature karmika. So you may sawe or some behind by you may looking more sawe man or glass and good story blow this heavy. Nabali talking me, Nabali talking me.
Here with National MTV News, coming up after these messages, Nambawan Supa announces an after-tax profit of 400 million kina. BSP lends its support to Apec Summit and Parliament and business houses to engage in talks to deliver services. We'll have the details when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Dang South Pacific became the first Papua New Guinean company to sign on as a gold sponsor to the Apec Business Advisory Council PNG. BSP CEO Robin Fleming handed a check of 500,000 kina to ABAC representatives today in Port Moresby.
The APAC Business Advisory Council has welcomed yet another sponsor for Papua New Guinea's APAC hosting year. The largest bank in the country, Bank South Pacific, has jumped on the bandwagon as the first gold sponsor of a series of APAC events, namely the MSME Symposium in September and the ABAC CEO Summit in November.
No stranger to Papua New Guineans in many respects is the latest sponsorship that we're announcing. We're very pleased and proud that the National Bank, the Bank of South Pacific, has come on board to assist APEC and ABAC in hosting the 2018 APEC year.
In presenting the check of 500,000 kina, BSP CEO Robin Fleming reasoned that the Green Bank raised its hands to sponsor the event because APEC provides an avenue for forging good relations with its neighbours and the wider global community.
There's a couple of key reasons why we are so keen on being involved. One is it's Papua New Guinea hosted an event, and we think it's incumbent upon all businesses to be able to participate in some manner to the extent to which they're capable. And there's a couple of key themes within the APEC and the ABAC as well, which is around the digital finance, digital capabilities, digital inclusion, and also the SMEs. And they're two themes which do resonate very strongly with BSP. And that was one of, quite apart from our exposure as a gold level partner, being able to participate and have our senior management participate in those discussions and present to various representatives, business representatives from all around Southeast Asia and Apec community, what Papua New Guineans can do in the digital area.
Leanne Jarari, National EMTV News.
The first of the 4 senior officials meetings for APEC member countries is underway in Port Moresby. It began this morning with opening remarks from SOM 1 Chair Ivan Pomaleo. In this 2-day meeting, APEC member countries are expected to present what they had recommended in their various working groups.
This is the 24th Senior Officials Meeting for APEC member countries and the first to be hosted by Papua New Guinea. In his opening remarks, SOM Chair Ivan Pomaleo encouraged APEC member countries to be interactive in their discussions.
And I look forward to our exchanges and, of course, the reports from the committees on the work that's being carried out in 2018 under the theme of harnessing inclusive opportunities, embracing the digital future. I continue to rely on your support to ensure that we deal with pressing matters efficiently, progress existing projects effectively, and identify future inclusive opportunities in order to meet our shared aspirations.
Since the 24th of February, over 80 meetings were held in Port Moresby, where APEC member countries conducted discussions on various economic aspects. Much of the discussions are on creating policies or frameworks that will not only grow the economy, but help protect an economy. For Papua New Guinea, the government bodies that participated in the discussions had given positive outcomes on areas where they can improve on.
As we engage over the next 2 days, I invite you to make these meetings as interactive and dynamic as possible. And with that, I welcome you all to the first Senior Officials Meeting for 2018.
The discussions conclude tomorrow with a regional visit to the Eastern Highlands on Saturday. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Representatives from the Northern, Milne Bay and Central provinces today began a 3-day regional workshop in Alotau. The workshop is centered on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how to integrate them into PNG STAR's policy management. Although Western and Gulf provinces were not able to make it, the participants were challenged to look at the UN goals and localize them in the best way possible for people to understand. Professor Chalapan Kalwin, the Acting Executive Dean for UPNG School of Natural and Physical Sciences, led a team of academics to Alotau to facilitate the workshop. One of them is Gwen Maru from UNDP.
Awareness on the Sustainable Development Goals. It's a regional approach to inform provinces and districts and local level governments, partners in the private sector and other civil society organizations about the Sustainable Development Goals and what locally appropriate options or solutions or mechanisms, tools that are available so that these people can also look at implementing the Sustainable Development Goals.
Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break and be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Nambawan Supa has declared a profit of 406 million kina for 2017. As a result, contributors to Nambawan Supa will see an 8% interest credited to their contributions. This was announced today by the chairman of Nambawan Supa, Anthony Smare. When announcing these results, Mr. Smare said despite the difficult economic climate in PNG, sound investment decisions had returned significant positive results. Today, representatives of contributors to Nambawan Supa gathered at the fund's headquarters for the official announcement of financial results for 2017. In announcing the results, Chairman Anthony Smare acknowledged the current difficult economic situations. The difficult circumstances were remedied through a thoughtful diversification of investments coupled with good governance. This meant that despite the tough times in PNG, Nambawan Supa realized a profit for the 2017 full year.
So today, despite the challenging economic conditions, I'm pleased to announce it's not as great as I would have hoped, but I think you should be happy. A profit of 406 million kina.
Addressing the media soon after, Chairman Smare emphasized the importance of diversifying their investments, a measure taken by the fund over the last 5 years. Looking forward, Nambawan Supa says there is opportunity for further investment growth within the country, with the chairman hinting at possible investment within the country's state-owned enterprises only if they pass stringent assessment, including governance measures.
We've spoken to the government and we've told them that we're open to taking interest in the state-owned enterprises as part settlement. In Guinea, PNG Ports, PNG Power. PNG Power, the workers there are our members. They're some of our best members. There's some of the members who make tremendous contributions to this fund. So we're very open-minded about looking at taking interest in SOEs, provided it fits our investment criteria and it fits our governance requirements.
I think long-term, we're thinking, how can we actually invest in areas for 30 years? And that's the benefit that the super fund brings. We can be long-term capital.
Turning overseas now, it's not just countries now waiting word on the proposed tariffs by President Trump. Some U.S. companies are concerned it could affect businesses and even lead to job losses.
There may not be a place in America paying closer attention to President Trump's proposal to slap a hefty tariff on steel imports than Northeast Ohio.
I mean, and that's what shaped this valley.
Whether it is the making of steel, the fabrication of steel, or the use of steel to make products like cars, medical equipment, and buildings, Cleveland's economy is heavily reliant on the resource. And the impact of these tariffs could be massive and immediate.
There will be a net loss of jobs in the steel consuming industry for sure.
Heitman Steel is smack dab in the middle of the steel supply chain. They buy millions of pounds of raw steel, process it, and sell it to companies like automakers.
There's about a ton of steel in a vehicle on average.
Heitman's president and CEO, Tim Barra, said that the tariff plan may offer a quick boost, but then a degree of uncertainty.
You see all this steel here? Every day it goes up in value. Yeah. That's good for us, short term.
Right.
It's still questionable how it's going to impact us long term.
Heitman, a family-owned Ohio company, counts automakers among its biggest customers. And the auto industry at this point is nervous about the proposal. The American Automotive Policy Council put out a statement in the wake of the president's announcement, warning that, quote, this would place the U.S. automotive industry, which supports more than 7 million American jobs, at a competitive disadvantage. Bill Gaskin, the president emeritus of the Precision Metal Forming Association, represents hundreds of companies that buy and use steel in their products. 150 of those companies are based in Ohio. And he warns the decision could lead to job losses and companies closing.
It leaves very little to hire people and do the other things that a company has to do, especially invest in new equipment.
But the people actually making the steel itself are for the tariffs, including Tony Panza, who spent years inside the mills of ArcelorMittal in Cleveland and now represents his fellow employees through the local United Steelworkers. He argues that tariffs will balance the global playing field and create jobs immediately.
And certainly, more people working here, more tax money, more tax dollars going to the communities, going to the states. I just think in the long run, it benefits everybody.
Gaskins disagrees. He argues in the U.S. there are 160,000 steel jobs versus more than 6 million that are related to companies that consume steel.
It's very hard to make the case that this generates more jobs.
Vision-impaired voters will have access to new technology to help cast their ballots in the South Australian election in 10 days' time. The initiative aims to give voters more independence.
That many of us take for granted, showing up to a polling centre, getting a ballot paper and being left in private to fill out your vote. But the whole notion of a secret ballot goes out the window when you're vision impaired and you need someone else to help you read the ballot paper and fill it in. The Royal Society for the Blind and the Electoral Commission of South Australia are helping vision impaired people vote using computers that read the details on the ballot to them. It might seem pretty straightforward, but it's the first time it's been used in South Australia.
If you can imagine having to go into a polling booth with a relative or an independent person from the polling booth casting the vote for you, it does take away a little bit of that self-esteem. And I think being able to go into this booth here and just do the votes the way you want, secretly, verifiably, is a tremendous breakthrough.
For a lower house vote, it can take up to 10 minutes for the computer to read all the details to the voter. For those lengthy upper house ballots, it could be there for up to 45 minutes.
It's really important that we invest in making sure that people can vote independently and privately, and this is a great way forward in doing that in state elections.
The RSB is also helping translate how to vote cards into Braille. The Royal Society for the Blind and the Electoral Commission have made this technology available at a few polling centres across the state. South Australians go to the polls on the 17th of March.
Here with National EMTV News, Trukai Sports is up next. We'll be back with the details. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Trukai's Fun Run auction in Leh raised a total of 175,300 kina this year with the sale of Fun Run shirts and other auctioned items. The auctioned items included 2 signed SP Hunters and Cowboys jerseys. The event was held at the Leh Yacht Club yesterday and was well attended by business houses in Leh.
The Leh Yacht Club bustled with people eager to support Trukai and the PNG Olympic Committee through this year's auction of Fun Run t-shirts. The auction went by a list of 74 schools in the Morobe province, giving bidders the opportunity to buy and donate shirts to their chosen schools. The highest bidder of the night was Tristar Transport, purchasing 2,400 shirts for 24,000 kina. Chairman of the PNG Olympic Committee, said John Dawanikura, who was also present, acknowledged the support of business houses in Leh, saying it made it possible for PNG athletes to participate in international events. Trukai CEO Greg Worthington-Eyre said the auction was an opportunity for businesses to support through the bidding of local schools using Fun Run t-shirts.
It is a fantastic event. We've got 100,000 t-shirts to sell.
The auction raised a total of 175,300 kina for 17,000 Fun Run shirts and 2 signed SP Hunters and Cowboy jerseys. The money raised will go towards Team PNG's participation in the Commonwealth Games in Australia next month. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV Sports, Leh.
To boxing, and in the 69-kilogram amateur bout, Warren Warupi from NCD and Joe McGyver from Karaku. The fight was one of the highlights of the Lamana Fight Night. Warupi came out all guns blazing in round 1 and 2 of the contest, displaying high level of stamina and skills, outclassing McGyver in the red corner to win his second bout of the event.
Warren Warupi in the blue corner and Joe McGyver in the red corner won their first bout last week Wednesday and were destined for the ultimate showdown. It was generally believed the Kairuku lad packs the bigger punch, while Warupi fans claim the NCD boxer has more power, speed and stamina. The deciding factor came down to the final fight night yesterday at the Lamana Arena. Style-wise, both fight with an orthodox stance, wearing down their opponent with accumulation rather than one huge shot. An early best from Warupi had question on most minds. Can McGyver in the red corner survive the onslaught? McGyver appeared consistent with his defense, mixing in those quick reflexes that made his opponent miss a couple of times and continued to roll with the punches and circled away. Warupi had almost the same hook in after the jabs, 1-2 and low shots to the body, then dropping in combinations, wearing down his opponent. Warupi's right shots and uppercut to the body did some damage, but McGyver came back with a combination and double hooks upstairs, then followed with the overhand right punches that worked well for him. A left hook in the final stages of the fight didn't land flush on the chin of Warupi in the blue corner, except provoked the NCD champion to hit back with tight shots to the body and quick counter punches that earned him the title, Champion of the Night. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
To tennis now, and Papua New Guinea's very own tennis star Abigail Tere Apisa spoke to EMTV Sports today about her narrow miss of the wildcard entry to the Australian Open singles this year when she went up against her Chinese opponent last year and stumbled in the grand final. Mixed emotions were her initial reaction, but it is now 2018 and the 25-year-old has her eyes on a much bigger tournament.
I usually don't get too disappointed when it comes to, losses. But this one really hit me hard. I went into the tournament not expecting much because it was in China, and I was really just going for the experience. But after the first few rounds of winning and making to the finals, I sort of, try to push myself and try to have a little bit more faith and belief that I could have done it. And I was really so close to finally playing such a big Grand Slam in January, but obviously that didn't go my way. The nerves got the best of me. I'm hoping to try to play some WTA tournaments, which are sort of the higher level than I'm playing at the moment. Eventually, I do want to start playing and qualifying for Grand Slams like the US Open, Wimbledon. So that's really my goal this year.
And we'll have more of that interview with Abigail Tere Apisa on Sports Scene next Monday at 8 p.m. But for now, we'll go for a break and continue with Trukai Sports on the other side. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To Rugby League now, and the PNG RFL has organised donation buckets at all venues and will observe a minute of silence at each PNG RFL sanctioned match this weekend. PNG RFL Chairman Sandis Chaka says the earthquake has devastated people and provinces where rugby league is passionately followed, and as a sport they will stand united to help the people whose lives and homes have been affected. Buckets will be placed at venues of the Intercity Cup trial matches and at the Hunters Clash at the National Football Stadium this weekend. Moving on to some sports abroad, and one-handed catch is nothing unusual for the stars of the NFL, but it is if the player in question actually only has one hand. But despite being born that way, one aspiring star is the talk of this year's Tyrants.
Literally, hundreds of prospects lifting, jumping, and running day after day.
Go to work, lock out.
But Shaquem Griffin elevated everything. Bench pressing 225 pounds 20 times with a prosthetic hand.
Come on. I got you. Lock it out.
And running the fastest 40-yard dash for any linebacker in more than a decade.
Shaquem Griffin is absolutely dominating.
Social media exploded following his performance. Seahawks player Richard Sherman tweeted, "If Shaquem Griffin doesn't get drafted in the first 2 days, the system is broken." Former NFL linebacker DeMarcus Ware chimed in, "You got my vote." Griffin was born with a condition called amniotic band syndrome. His hand was underdeveloped and amputated when he was 4 years old. His twin brother, Shaquille, only 1 minute older than him, plays for the Seattle Seahawks and is Shaquem's biggest fan.
So he's a huge role model to me, but I'm definitely proud of him and getting through all the adversity.
Who else? Shaquem Griffin!
At the University of Central Florida, Shaquem became a star.
He's got that passion too, Todd. Never gives up on a play.
That would be
a steely determination that was on full display, something he joked about with his brother last month while training in Dallas.
I'm telling you, I'm going to beat his time. I'm letting everybody know now. Don't put that much pressure on yourself, because this is stuff that they write down and it never goes away.
As it turns out, identical times for identical twins who hope to have the NFL seeing double.
Lawyers for rugby league star Jared Hayne have officially lodged his defense against a rape allegation during his time playing American football in California. The documents claim the woman at the center of the lawsuit gave, quote, implied consent.
The heavy hits the game promotes, the NRL's opening night and International Women's Day collide head-on as Jared Hayne publicly mounts his defence to rape allegations from his days with the San Francisco 49ers. Coach Brad Arthur was furious with media attention at training, and Hayne's car was taken to the middle of the park so he could drive away shielded from questions.
There was no sexual intercourse? No sexual intercourse?
What do you mean by implied consent?
Haynes' defence was lodged with California's District Court, 13 pages, 18 rebuttals, where he denies generally and specifically each and every allegation he sexually assaulted a 25-year-old virgin he had picked up at a bar. She consented to all actions that took place, it says, claiming she ordered an Uber using the defendant's phone to take them both to where the defendant was staying. In spite of the alleged victim's claim she was physically injured having sexual intercourse, she willingly engaged in sexual interaction that did not include sexual intercourse. She was not injured at all, had a cordial conversation with Haynes' friend the morning after, and did not report, show or claim any injuries to anyone after. Teammates hoping to talk only footy could not sidestep this issue today.
We don't get too distracted of what people say on the outside, so yeah, to be honest, it hasn't been mentioned at all inside our camp.
Jared's got his own personal stuff he needs to worry about, but he's definitely a sweet mate.
On Sunday, Haynes plays once more for the club that made him a superstar, a publicity coup that comes with baggage.
And that's it for True Kai Sports. When we come back, the weather details for Friday. Don't go away.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby, Daru, Kerema, Alotau and Popondetta to expect some showers tomorrow. To the Momase region, some showers expected all across the region as well. That is in Alay, Wau, Medang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, showers expected in Lorengau, a shower or two as well for Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg can expect a shower or two.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And before we go, in August this year, the business community will be taking business to Parliament. This was announced today by Speaker of Parliament and the PNG Business Council. The Speaker's Investment Summit will be held concurrently with the August Parliament sitting and will provide members of Parliament the opportunity to engage with business to understand how they can work together to deliver services to the people. The announcement of the inaugural Speaker's Investment Summit was made today at Parliament House. This event, to be held from the 26th to the 28th of August, which will coincide with the August Parliament sitting. PNG Business Council President Robert Nilkare said the summit would bring business to Parliament in an effort to promote engagement between the private sector and members of Parliament.
At the end of the day, I mean, government is led by our members of Parliament, and you as the Speaker of the House, you have the opportunity to allow your members of Parliament to participate in such an investment forum. And we're making it convenient because it's here in Papua New Guinea and it's not overseas. Where
the Speaker of Parliament was excited at the prospect of having MPs meet with businesses. He said the summit would allow for more dialogue, which was lacking in the past.
I'm in all leaders from the country over the stuff now. Only looking so this year, me like looking the soul that display they got more successful and we leaders by want them on business line.
At today's announcement, the PNG Investment Promotion Authority became the first organization to support the summit, with its acting managing director, Clarence Hood, announcing their support for this event as a platinum sponsor. And that brings us to the end of the news, sport and weather for today, Thursday, the 8th of March 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.